Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises and honor and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rachak Wadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders in Great Millstone who well. Peace and mercy to the Tazadak Akim out there that's laboring in his truth with all sincerity. I want to say Shalom. All right, and today's topic is going to go into Matthew, the 13th chapter, the 44th verse. But before I get that, what inspired me to do this lesson was I was reading the book of the Manners and Customs, going into the, customs of what the ancient Israelites were doing, because now, for me, what inspired me to do this lesson, because I noticed that Yahweh Shah, he always linked up ancient customs to make his point. Okay, and when I was reading the Manners and Customs, I stumbled upon a certain custom, which happened to be in the book of Matthew, the 13th chapter, the 44th verse. Okay, so I'm gonna read this real quick, and then I'm gonna go jump into the scriptures. All right, and we're gonna go into, what were the Israelites were doing in those particular times, and things of that nature. So first and foremost, I want to go into this. So because we know that Yahweh Shah, he spoke in a figure of speech, right? So I wanted to go into, which type of figure of speech he uses when linking up ancient customs to make his point. So when I go into it, it says, because we know Yahweh Shah, he spoke in metaphors, similes, analogies, all right? And, he spoke in different forms of speech. So one of the speeches, that figure of speeches he uses, all right, is analogy, simile, all right, which we're going to stick to that. So we know now that when Yahweh Shah, when he uses ancient customs, when he links up ancient customs to make his point, he is speaking in an analogy, simile form. Okay, so it says analogy and simile. Yahweh Shah drew comparisons between familiar aspects of everyday life, including established Jewish customs and practices, and spiritual truths or principles he aimed to convey. All right, it says, for instance, when explaining the nature of the kingdom of heaven, Yahweh Shah compares it to a mustard seed, the smallest of seeds, yet capable of growing into a large tree that provides shelter. This comparison utilizes the natural growth of a plant to illustrate the transformative potential of even a small beginning or belief. So we're going to just stick to, Yahweh Shah, when he links up ancient customs to make his point, he's speaking in a analogy, simile form of speech, all right, or figure of speech. So now I'm going to go into the book of Matthew, the 13th chapter, the 44th verse, because in this verse, all right, or these verses, he's speaking in an analogy way of speaking, in a simile way of speaking. He's comparing it to ancient customs that the Israelites were doing to make his point. So let's get into it. So this is the book of Matthew, chapter 13, verse 44. It reads, again, the kingdom of heaven is like unto a treasure hid in a field, the which when a man have found, he hideth, and for joy thereof goeth and selleth all that he hath, and buyeth that field. So this is going into what? When a man, all right, especially like a new listener or a believer, that man represents a believer who is seeking to find the truth, right? Which we all, the prophesying now, we were all those men before we knew the truth, seeking the truth. All right. So now it's saying when a man have found, it says the kingdom of heaven is like unto treasure hid in the field. All right. This treasure is talking about the wisdom, knowledge, and understanding of these scriptures. All right. Once we found the true understanding, the wisdom, the knowledge, and understanding of these scriptures, all right, knowing the true names of the Lord, knowing prophecy, all right, knowing that we are Hebrew Israelites, that was the treasure that was found, because we didn't know who we were as a people. We were seeking the truth. Okay, and the Lord, that was a gift. All right. Other than actually, the kingdom of, this is also talking about the literal kingdom of heaven. Okay, because that's the ultimate prize. All right, us receiving salvation, being the first fruits. All right, of the kingdom of heaven. Receiving salvation through the Lord. All right. Being a part of that governing body. All right. So that's ultimately, the kingdom of heaven, but it's all that treasure is also applying to the wisdom, knowledge, and understanding, because the scriptures speak about the kingdom of heaven is within us. It starts with us having this wisdom, having this truth. Okay. So this truth is that treasure that's in that field. Okay. And it says, I'm going to read it again. This is Matthew 13:44. Again, the kingdom of heaven is like unto a treasure hidden in a field, that which when a man hath found, he hideth, and for joy thereof goeth and selleth all that he hath. So it goes into what? When the Lord opens your eyes and give you that gift of faith and opens your eyes to the wisdom, knowledge, and understanding of these scriptures, all right, you sacrifice everything. You sacrifice what? The world. All right, the old man. Okay, you sacrifice that old man, the ways that you was conducting yourself in the world. All right, you put everything away to the side, your job, your family, your personal lust. You sacrifice all those things for the Lord. All right, because once you find this truth, he was happy, like, wow. Matter of fact, let me get that real quick. Wisdom is better than rubies. Better than rubies. Salakia. Wisdom rubies. Muses put wisdom rubies. Because this wisdom. Yep. So this is Proverbs chapter 8, verse 11. For wisdom is better than rubies, and all the things that may desired are not to be compared to it. So wisdom, having this wisdom of these scriptures, because we know that the wisdom of this world is foolishness to the Most High. The wisdom of these scriptures, all right, is better than rubies, all right, which is a precious, stone, all right, which and especially in ancient times, they held a high value. They were very valuable. Okay, so it says this. I'm gonna get Book of Job, chapter 28, verse 18. It reads, "No mention shall be of coral or of pearls, for the price of wisdom is above rubies." So, the price of wisdom is above rubies, man. All right, so that's why when that man, he found that treasure, all right, in the field, he hideth it, like, he tucked it away, like it was like, when you hide something, it means it's valuable to you. You don't want no one to thieve it from you, to thieve it for you, like my Caribbeans say, because it's something valuable to you, So it says, and for joy, so you excited. And it says, thereof goeth and selleth all that he have. You put all the things away. Put the world behind you. All right? And buyeth that field. Meaning you spiritually invest you spiritually invest. You make that spiritual investment. All right? By doing those sacrifices, by laboring for Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua. Okay? So now we're going to go into, right, of the ancient customs of, why did Yahweh Shah compare it? What were the Israelites doing? All right. So I Googled, all right, the hidden treasure. All right. So it says hidden treasures were not uncommon in Israel. Palestine was in the land bridge between many of the aggressive nations of the north and east to Egypt. All right. Yep. Egypt was always considered a plum target because of its power and wealth. And so to get from the empires of north or east to Egypt, it was necessary to go through Palestine, Israel, Canaan, and because armies marched on their stomachs and tended to mop up whatever they could, it was common enough for the inhabitants to feel the necessity of hiding their money and valuables in the ground. This was a good strategy if you lived to return to the family's treasure. All right, now when you go into that, matter of fact, it's going to go into it. It says, but some did not, and left an open question about what was to be done with discovered hidden treasures. The assumption was that since families handed down land from generation to generation, that whoever owned the land was the most likely to be legitimate heir of the treasure. It was not finders keepers. You had to own the land upon which you found the treasure. This was the law and practice in ancient Judea. And in this law and practice, Yahweh Shah found a great illustration contained in a single verse. So this was also now when you go into the law, of the land, which I was reading in the book of Manners and Customs, and goes into that. You had Israelites, hiding treasures, hoping that, just in case of these invasions, all right, because it was a lot of war in those times, so they used to hide their treasures, hoping in that land, hoping they could return to their treasures, or hoping a family member, might, be able to retain the land. Okay, because now when you go into the year of Jubilee, that's when all was the land restored if you owe debt. Because a lot of ancient in those ancient times, Israelites, they had debt, so there were servants to a Hebrew master, going into that ancient custom of the digital oil. Of the oil. All right, when a master bored a servant's ear, going into how that represented that servant serving the master. Okay, so now the year of Jubilee, you had people getting their lands back that they once sold. Okay, to getting their land back, which they once sold, you had Hebrew slaves. You had Hebrew slaves being freed, all right, as well as debts being cleared, okay? And that was all going into the year of Jubilee, all right? So if a person, or a family member made, in the year of Jubilee, get that land back, right? It's a possibility that they could dig for the treasure. They could dig in that land and find treasure that their family member, once left, because they had to, leave due to invasions. So this is why Israelites in those times, all right, used to bury treasure, all right, in their fields, in the land. Okay. So going back to the scriptures, this is the reason why Yahweh Shah he linked up those ancient customs to make his point, because you had Israelites, hiding treasures hiding their treasures in their lands and their fields for those purposes of invasions and things of that nature. All right. So verse 45, it reads, again, the kingdom of heaven is like unto a merchant man seeking goodly pearls. All right, so it's like the kingdom of heaven is like unto a merchant man seeking goodly pearls, which were the merchantmen. All right, the believers, the prophets. All right, we seeking those goodly pearls. We are seeking the wisdom. All right, we're seeking the Lord, and we're ultimately seeking the kingdom of heaven, which we know that is going to be eternal, everlasting. You know, we seeking for our bodies to be changed, us being programmed to be righteous. Okay, so we're those merchant men. All right. It reads verse 46, who when he had found one pearl of great price, went and sold all that he had and bought it. You know? So once he found that one pearl, he sold everything that he had. You know, going into what I said earlier, you sacrificing for the Lord by putting off the world, putting off the things of the world. All right?